Welcome to video 2 of your webinar blueprint. I'm your webinar blueprint guide, Jeff Winberg, and in the last video, we looked at the importance of webinars, how they can impact your business, and the basics you need to figure out before you really get started. In this video, we're going to talk about planning your webinar, what you'll talk about, and performing your webinar so that you guarantee a connection with your audience. Now, planning is your friend. Having a solid plan in place for your webinar is imperative to having a great webinar. A teacher would never step into a classroom without a lesson plan, and that's because a lesson plan helps you ensure learning actually happens. So think of your webinars in the same way. Your plan will make sure your audience connects with you, develops the ever-important trust, and hopefully takes a relationship to the next level by purchasing one of your products. But you might be wondering, how do you choose a topic you know your audience will find interesting, engaging, and something they actually want to learn? Let's look at 5 proven and easy ways to pick a great webinar topic. Number 1, ask your audience. There's no need to try and figure out a topic just by guessing. Simply ask your audience. Now, here's the caveat to this statement. Most people can't really tell you what they want, but they can certainly tell you what they're struggling with, what they don't like, and what really bugs them. So simply ask your audience what they're struggling with when it comes to your market or your niche. Here are some examples. What's your biggest challenge with your golf game? What areas of your health are you struggling with? What's your biggest frustration when planning a family vacation? So you might be wondering now, where do you ask these questions? And the simple answer is wherever your audience is. So number 1, your email list. If you have an existing email list, email them and ask. The whole point of an email list is to have dialogue with your audience. If you're just getting started building your audience, you may not have the luxury of a large email list, and that's totally okay. You can still ask other places, like number 2, social media. Ask what they're struggling with on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, or whatever you use. Number 3, online groups. Use Facebook groups, meetups, forums, and so on, and ask people hanging out there what they're struggling with when it comes to your topic. Most groups have a large number of people who would be happy to answer your questions. Number 4, your website. Write a blog post and ask for feedback. Or number 5, go old school and pick up the phone and just call your very best clients. So that's the first way to develop a great topic and where to find people to ask. Now, here's a strategy that most people overlook when picking a topic. Have 3 topics, not just one. When gathering feedback from your audience, shortlist the top 3 topics. Take those topics and post them on social media or send out an email to your list and let your audience vote. This will get the audience engaged and looking forward to your next webinar, knowing that one of these 3 great topics will be covered. Number 3, peruse Amazon. Don't have a big audience? Not big on social media? No problem. Amazon is your best friend. Take a look at books on Amazon in your niche and filter by 3-star reviews. Why 3 stars? Well, 5 stars are usually all praise and there's no real critical feedback on what's missing in the book. And a 1-star review is usually someone just trashing the book with no real useful feedback. A solid 3-star review will give you great critical feedback and you'll get those magic words, "I wish the author would explain how to do this." There's your webinar topic. Number 4, you could run a Q&A webinar. Need a topic for your first webinar? Here it is. Ask me anything. That's your topic. Run a webinar where your audience can ask anything they'd like. Take note of the hot questions that are being asked and what's sparking your audience's interest. Just look for the questions that are asked that get a lot of comments and a lot of chatter. Those are the ones that they really want to know about, and these will make great webinar topics. WebinarNinja makes this process a cinch because we have a dedicated Q&A area for all of your questions, comments, and answers, which are saved in your account to refer to later. Now, number 5, craft a great webinar title. A great webinar topic needs a great title, so spend some time crafting a great webinar title. The best titles hit on painful problems your audience has that you will solve on your training, and usually they have a bit of curiosity or intrigue built in. So let's take a look at an example. Tips for your next trip to Europe. Sounds like a decent title for a webinar, right? It's okay, but not something that would probably get a lot of people to register. It doesn't really solve a problem, it doesn't promise a concrete solution to the problem, and I might go to that webinar if I was thinking about going to Europe, but it's not a must attend. So what can we change to make this title a must attend webinar? So let's try another example. How to travel to Europe for 2 weeks for under $2,500. Now let's break down what's happening here. It addresses the problem of cost when it comes to traveling to Europe. It's also specific and speaks directly to those who have 2 weeks and not much cash to enjoy a European vacation. Okay, so you get the idea. And now that you have the title and the general idea of what you're going to be talking about, create a simple outline of the webinar. You never want to just get on a webinar and wing it. You always want to have some kind of outline of what the flow will look like. The outline helps you make sure that you cover what you want to during the webinar. There are plenty of templates inside the WebinarNinja members area that you can use to create different outlines, but we'll use this one here as an example. This is a simple outline that has my main points. Then I would next make notes under each outline point. And you can use cue cards or a mini script for each one, however you want to do it. You won't be reading these on the webinar. These are just to flesh out your ideas and make sure you're familiar with the delivery of the material. Setting expectations at the beginning of the webinar is also important to the process. So make sure that you include that in your outline. Are you going to be taking questions? Make sure you let your audience members know that they can submit questions and you'll be answering them all at once at the end of the webinar. Are you going to be making an offer to them? Make sure you allow time for that. We have a dedicated lesson on selling on webinars in a later video where we'll show you how to sell without feeling like a slime ball. In fact, your audience will respect and love you for it, but we'll get to that later. Okay, so now that you've got your topic, title, and outline, something important needs to happen in your mindset. You need to start seeing your webinars as performances. When you do that, the better they'll be. WebinarNinja member and New York Times writer Michael Port teaches anytime you speak to any group, you should make it a performance. No one wants to attend a talk. They want to be engaged and really enjoy themselves. You don't have to act a certain way or be someone that you're not. We're not saying that. What we are saying is you have to think about your delivery or your performance and make sure that it's something that will resonate with your audience. Okay? Cool. Next comes rehearsal. Something that is said for the 5th time will always sound better than the first time. You know that this is true. Think about your favorite joke or story you like to tell at parties. If it's the 4th or 5th time that you've told it, by that point you've nailed the delivery. So read through your outline and notes as many times as you can and see if you can go through your webinar without looking back at them. Webinars are like public speeches. If you go to any conferences, events, or anything like that that have the same speakers, you'll realize the best speakers, the ones that get paid the big bucks, only really do 3 or maybe 4 different speeches. They get hired for the performance of those specific speeches. So they work on delivering only 3 or 4 speeches. They don't deliver something absolutely new every time. They just reach new people every time. The same goes with those who rock it with webinars. They do 2, maybe 3 different webinars for their business. Some only do 1, and that's a good idea to start with. Just focus on nailing your first webinar, perfect it, and use the same plan and do it over and over to new audiences until you're ready to offer a different type of webinar with new content. Now, let's cover some pro tips to keep in mind when delivering your webinar performance. Number 1, stand when you're giving your webinars. You allow yourself to be more expressive and upbeat when you're not slouched in a chair. This also allows more air to get into your lungs so you don't run out of breath when speaking. If you need to raise the computer and screen to do this, then put a book under it or something, but the difference will be big. Number 2, keep it interactive. You don't have to speak the whole time. Ask the audience to have a text doc out and give them mini tasks to complete throughout the webinar. For example, if I'm doing a webinar on how to find the best used car under $10,000, you might take a moment and ask them to jot down all the makes of cars they would consider driving, like Honda, Toyota, Nissan, etc. Then let them do something with the info that you're giving them. You can take a sip of water and give them a minute. With WebinarNinja, you can also cut to a video if you want, maybe an example of what you're teaching. The point is, you don't need to speak every second of the webinar. Number 3, enjoy yourself. Smile. If you're having a good time, they will have a good time. This is so important, yet so undervalued. When you're having a good time and you look confident, you'll actually be confident because you planned and rehearsed. Number 4, give incredible value. Make sure every attendee goes away with their expectations exceeded. Strive to earn their trust. Remember what we talked about in the last video. Trust is key. So don't squander the trust you've built by not delivering something that's very valuable to your audience. And last but not least, lighten up and go easy on yourself. Most of us are perfectionists, but this is a learning process. It won't be perfect the first time around, but you have to start somewhere. Just getting started is half the battle. The more you perform your webinar, the better you'll get at it. But even then, unexpected things will happen. Just go easy on yourself and keep moving forward. Okay, so we've covered a lot in this video. Let's recap what you'll need to do right now. Number 1, choose a topic. Number 2, create a great title. Number 3, create an outline. Number 4, rehearse. In the next video, I'll share with you all of the hardware and software tools that you'll need to host your webinar online. We'll see you in the next lesson. Take care.